You may have your seats in this wonderful place. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking before you. I have the pleasure of, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of let you into my own personal Bible study. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I'm not a bishop, I'm not a reverend. I'm just a young boy trying to make heaven. Does that make sense? So I'm going to let you into my personal little Bible study time. And today, what I'm going to talk about, I can't see sometimes, so I'm going to put these on. Today, what I'm going to talk about is simply being used by God. Being used by God. We are young people. We are young people who desire to be used by God. We are young people who should desire to be used by God. We are young people who will be used by God. Amen? But I want you to understand that being used by God is first and foremost a privilege. Being used by God, it is a privilege, but it is a privilege that we should humbly accept and be bold and act in. Does that make sense? Jesus Christ, no one said yes. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? When I say does that make sense, please just reply to me so I have confidence. Okay, being used by God is a privilege, and today I'm going to try and use Saul as somewhat of a brick to lay a somewhat solid foundation, and hopefully it grows from there. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use Saul. I'm going to dive into a bit of David, but mainly Saul. And just before we get into it, I want you to open 1 Samuel 15. We're going to use 1 Samuel 15, and we're going to go through that whole chapter, well, most of the chapter. We're going to talk about being used by God. Saul was king of Israel. This was after Saul. This was after Israel cried out for a king. They wanted so desperately for a king to rule over them. And then Saul was chosen. Saul did a couple of things. Then we get to 1 Samuel 15, where the Amalekites, they were a recurring enemy of Israel. They were always after the Israelites. They always wanted to do something bad to the Israelites. And Saul got, you can see the Amalekites in the book of Exodus, chapter 17. I don't know the verse, but it's in the book of Exodus as well. So there was an instruction given to Saul to go and do something to the Amalekites because they wanted to, because they done something to the Israelites, and Saul didn't follow this instruction. And we're going to kind of use his story, or part of his story, 1 Samuel 15, to talk about being used by God. Does that make sense? So we're going to start right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, 1 Samuel 15. And I'm using the Common English, I'm using CEV, that version, because I like that version. So, 1 Samuel 15. One day Samuel told Saul, "The Lord told me to choose you to be king of his people Israel." Now listen to this message from the Lord. When the Israelites were on their way out of Egypt, the nation of Amalek attacked them. I am the Lord all-powerful, and now I'm going to make Amalek pay. Go and attack the Amalekites, destroy them and all their possessions, don't have any pity. Kill their men, this is the instruction, this is the specific instruction. Kill their men, women, children, and even their babies. Slaughter their cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. That was the specific instruction. When you go to fight the Amalekites, you know the English. When you go to fight them, destroy everything. Do not leave anything left. Don't leave anything. Destroy everything. Everything, whether it be their men, women, cattle, animals, everything, destroy everything. So moving on from verse 4, Saul sent messengers who told every town and village to send men to join the army at Dagenham. There were 210,000 troops in all, and 10,000 of those were from Judah. Saul organized them, then led them to a valley near one of the towns in Amalek, where they got ready to make a surprise attack. Some Kenites lived nearby, and Saul told them, "Your people were kind to our nation when we left Egypt, and I don't want you to get killed when I wipe out the Amalekites. So stay away from them." The Kenites left, and Saul attacked the Amalekites from Havilah to Shur, which is just east of Egypt. Every was killed except King Agag. Saul and his army left Agag alive, which was disobeying the instruction. The initial instruction was to kill everything, destroy everything, leave nothing there that anybody can see, destroy everything. So that's the first disobedience. Saul and his army left Agag to live, and they also spared the best sheep and cattle. The second disobedience, when he was told to kill everything. They didn't want to destroy anything of value, so they only killed the animals that were worthless or weak. So this is the kind of body from verse 10. The Lord told Samuel, "Saul has stopped obeying me, and I'm sorry that I made him king." Samuel was angry, and he cried out in prayer to the Lord all night. Early the next morning, he went to talk with Saul. This is the main bit here. Someone told him. Saul went to Carmel, where he had a monument built so everybody would remember his victory. I'm going to read that again from verse 12. Early the next morning, he went to talk with Saul. Someone told him Saul went to Carmel where he had a monument built so everybody would remember his victory. Now remember what we're talking about here, being used by God. Being used by God. And one important aspect, or if not the most important aspect of being used by God, is that all glory goes back to God when you're done with the job. Saul was sent on a mission to go and destroy all the people of Amalek and destroy everything they had, destroy sheep, cattle, men, women, children, every single thing they had, but he first disobeyed that instruction. And then even after somewhat partly doing the instruction that God gave to him, he then went on to go and build a monument to celebrate his own victory, not the victory of the Father. Because the victory of the Father, what he wanted to do was he wanted to somewhat get revenge for the Israelites, or the people of Israel, should I say. And that is where Saul, first, he was used by God, but then he didn't understand. He wasn't humble in him being used by God. He came to the point where he thought, okay, I've done this now. Yeah, I've done what God said to me, but I didn't really complete the mission. Did I really complete the mission? Not really, but I was still used by God. Thank God, hallelujah, praise Jesus. Let's move on to the next thing. Because he was so quick to move on to building his monument and then moving on. Oh, what's the next battle now? What does God want to say to me there? And we got to understand that it's important. When God gives you an instruction, he always wants to use you, and it's always important to stick to that instruction to the T. Stick to that instruction to the T. Don't deviate from the instruction. Don't deviate. Don't try and add your own gloss to the instruction. That's what Saul wanted to do. He wanted to add his own gloss by saying, yeah, I'm going to build a monument in my name. I'm going to leave the king alive. I'm going to do what I want. I don't need to follow the instruction to the T. It's very, very important. When you want to be used by God, when you want to do things for the kingdom, whether you're out in the front leading worship, teaching the word, or whether you're behind the scenes, maybe teaching a small class in the children's department, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you follow his instruction to the T. It's important that then and only then will you be used by God in his fullest capacity, humbly used by God in his fullest capacity. Being humble is a very, very important part of being used by God. Because it's important to understand that after this, I always wonder, could Saul then be trusted with anything God wanted him to do next? Because after this, we go on to read that Saul was then rejected as king over Israel, and then God went to go and raise another in David. And I always wonder, can God really trust us with what he has called us to do? With what he has put in your hands, placed in your hands, can he trust you with that? Or do you complain? Do you say, God, I can't do this? God, I don't know where to go next. God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to start. I don't know how I'm going to go about this one thing. And he's placing that thing in your hands sometimes for 6 months, sometimes for a year, sometimes 2 years, and God forbid, sometimes 10 years, 15 years. He'll put that one thing in your hand. He's meant to trust you to do that one thing, but then he looks at you, it's like, I gave you this instruction. I wanted to give you another instruction after that, but can I really trust you? You didn't follow my first instruction. What happened to the first instruction? What happened to the first call? You were meant to fall back into my grace. You were meant to fall back and come back to me, where we can go on and move forward and do other things that were in my name, that were for my glory. But no, the very first thing I gave you, the very first thing I tried to place in your hands, whether it be the small thing of talking to the 5 or the small thing of leading a small class. Listen, before you can get to the 50,000, master the 5, then you can, God, if he wants to, in his will, he will take you to the 50,000. But you must first understand, when he gives you that first instruction, as hard as it may be, sometimes it's hard, but as hard as it may be, do it. Well, I remember when I started working, and you do the standard stuff. God, what do you want me to do here today? In this workplace I'm working in, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? How do you want me to live my life? And the arching instruction, should I say, is, he said, show love to everybody. And I thought, I'm a loving guy. Why not? That's easy. I'm a loving guy. And then he said that, show love to everybody. Then he gave me 2 very specific instructions in that. The very first instruction was to always say good morning to the receptionist. And I wondered, okay. Because in my office, there's 2 ways to go to my office. You can even go the kind of easy way, where you literally just walk straight to the office. Or you could go the kind of harder way, where you have to walk through the reception, you're doing all this turning, and then you go up to the office. So he said, always, every single morning, say good morning to the receptionist. I'm going to be honest, I didn't understand it, but I still done it. I'm going to be totally honest. The second instruction he gave to me was on my way to work. There's a homeless man that sits in the same place every single day. Every single day. As in he's an old army veteran. He sits in the same place in the same way every single day. And he has a sign that kind of lays on his legs saying he's an army veteran, so on and so forth. And then God said to me, every single day when you walk past him, buy him food. And I work in Shoreditch. There's no McDonald's in Shoreditch. There's no KFC in Shoreditch. There's only Eat, Pret, what's the other one? You know these expensive shops? Hey, Eat. Eat. The expensive shops. And he said every single day when you walk past him, buy him food. And I remember, I'm going to be so honest, I tried to disobey the first day. I promise you, he took control of my legs and I turned back around and I went to go and buy him food. I tried to walk past him, tried to walk straight to my office. I didn't even give him eye contact. I just walked, walk. You know, jelly. He said, are you sure you're going to do that? I said, all right, brother. Then I just had to walk back and I just walk to the E and then I bought him food. And every single day since then, I managed to buy him food. And I said to God, I don't have money. Because E is expensive. The Pret is expensive. Even Tesco, I'm sure they raised the price in Shoreditch. Everything's expensive. So then he said, don't worry. It's okay. I'll provide. And I'm going to be totally honest. I still see my account going down and down and down and down. But I came to the understanding that in everything you do, any instruction the Father gives you, there is always an end goal, and there's a reason that the instruction is said in such a specific way. There is a reason that the instruction is said to you in the first place. And trusting God trusting God when he gives you the instructions so he can use you is very, very hard. Very, very hard. Especially when you're losing something. Very, very hard. You know, when you're losing money, time, energy, whatever you may be. It's when you're losing something, that's when it's hardest. When there's something to sacrifice, that's when it's hardest. And sometimes as Christians, especially young Christians, when we want to be used by God, we're so desperate to have it today, we're so desperate to have it tomorrow, we're so desperate to have it next week, it might not come for a little while. We're so desperate, we're very desperate, say, God, this person is worshiping, they're worshiping like a warrior. Me too, I want to worship like a warrior. No, you're not a warrior yet, you're just in training. And it's okay to be in training because every warrior trains before they become a warrior. It's okay to be in training. And what kind of helped me in terms of this whole instruction thing and being used by God and kind of doing whatever needs to be done for his will, especially as a young person, is understanding that as a human, I'm subject to time. As humans, we are all subject to time. You see it in our bodies, you see it with history, we're subject to time. You don't look the same as when you was first born. You don't. We're all subject to time, but God is not subject to time, he is the author of time. We're not subject, God is not subject to time, we are subject to time. And we say that if I'm not married by 25, I'm failing. If I ain't got a house by 30, I'm failing. If I ain't got a job by 16, I'm failing. If I ain't got money by 10, I'm failing. Do you get what I'm saying? We want these things today. We want these things so quickly. You know, we want to say, God, I want to speak in front of Wembley Stadium tomorrow, because if not tomorrow, then it won't be done. And if it's not done, somebody else will then take my place. And I want the glory. Oh, no, sorry. You need the glory. And it's so easy to get caught up in this Christian world that we forget that you got to understand God is at the end, or God is meant to be at the end of every single thing you do. Beginning of everything you do, with you, everything you do, and at the end of everything you do. I remember a prayer I always pray when I'm doing something is, God, I need you with me at the start. I need you walking beside me, and I need you ahead of me. In anything I do. I'm not a perfect Christian, please don't think I am. I'm struggling. So in everything I do, I need you in the beginning, I need you walking beside me, and I need you in the end. Because if you only have him at the beginning, or you only seek him at the beginning, because remember, he's the Alpha and the Omega. He's omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, all of those things, all of those omnis. He is all of those. So you need him in the beginning. If you only have him in the beginning, when you get to the end, or even better yet, when you get to the middle, you remember the good old days when you used to seek God's wisdom, when you used to seek his counsel. And the funny thing is, we don't go back, we keep moving forward. It's like, oh man, well, I'm here now, I can't go back. I'm here now, let me just fall off the cliff, and you're gone. It's so easy to get caught up in the, let me not follow the instruction, let me not do this thing so that God can get all the glory. Because what I've come to understand is that it's so very easy for, let me put it like this. Our senses add to our comfort. Our eyes, ears, smell, taste, touch, they add to our comfort. If you lost all of your senses, right now, you lost, you're sitting here, everything just went, you lost everything. You would be confused. You would be lost. You would think, do I stand up? What do I do? Do I try and check if you're blind, deaf, and dumb as well? You will be lost in everything you do. And I come to understand that the best way sometimes to follow Christ is to lose your senses. It sounds weird, but it makes sense. To lose in the sense that if God gives you an instruction, sometimes, have you ever been given an instruction and maybe the person you're sent to go and talk to, they don't look like they'll heed your instruction. They don't look like, when you talk to them, they don't look 100. They look a bit 75. They don't look good. It's like, man. It's like, But imagine you couldn't see the person. You would listen to the instruction. Imagine you couldn't hear what the person sounds like. You'll be happy to go and follow the instruction because your senses haven't given you comfort. Your senses have actually taken away from your comfortability and allowed you to really rest in what the Father is telling you to do. Sometimes, forget everything around you. Forget all this here. Because all of this will pass away. You got to understand, when it comes times that you get to a beautiful gate, God will ask you, what about that instruction I told you? Then if you said, man, I saw him and he didn't look, he will say, okay, that's fine. Go and meet your brethren downstairs. Go and meet them downstairs. Don't come with me. So, being used by God, it's a privilege. It's hard. It's hard. Very, very hard. But it's a privilege. It's a privilege that we should all take joy in. We should humbly take joy in. Very, very humbly. That's what I pointed out here in Samuel, 1 Samuel 15 and verse 12 specifically. He wasn't humble in his service. He wasn't humble in the instruction God gave to him. Sometimes you feel like, hopefully not anybody in here, but some people will feel like, God asked me to do something. Chest out, head up. God asked me to do something because he knows me and he knows that, I'm very good. He knows me that and he knows that, yes, truly, I'm the best Christian. Truly. He knows that God can always count on me. God is chest out. Sometimes the best way to receive an instruction is head down, knees on the floor. That's the best way to receive an instruction. Head down, knees on the floor. Just zoned out from everything here. Zoned out from all the world, everything here. All the other people, your friends, your family, anybody that tries to deviate from the instruction God has given to you, anybody that tries to add gloss to the instruction God has given to you, forget all of that. Forget all of that, because when God questions you on that, it's you that has to answer, not the friend who's giving you the gloss. It's you that has to answer. So sometimes the best way to receive an instruction, the best way to take an instruction, the best way to seek an instruction is on your knees, head down, eyes closed, mouth shut. Forget everything else. Forget everything else. You don't need everything else because everything else will fade away. His word will remain the same forever and ever from the days gone and the days to come. Forever and ever. Let's go to, we'll keep your finger on 1 Samuel 15, but let's quickly run to Psalms 128, verse 1. Are we together? Can you smile for me one time? I like confidence, so please smile for me one time. Okay, this is only a Jija. Well done, thank you. Okay, it's fine. Don't worry, it's fine. Psalms 128, and we're only going to read verse 1. Psalms 128, verse 1. Are we there? I heard yes. This side, are we there? This side, are we there? Okay. Psalms 128, verse 1. The Lord will bless you if you respect him and obey his laws. Very, very simple scripture. Very, very simple scripture. Respect him and obey his laws. Every single law, whether it's the law that he gave to Moses or the law he gives you even right now, or maybe in worship that's gone or worship that is to come, whatever law there is to come, simply obey his laws. As hard as it must be, but you got to always understand every law God gives you, there's always an end goal, like I said. There's always an end goal. There's always something in the end that matters, always something in the end that is to come into effect. And I believe that the first instruction that God gave me at work, even though I was a bit confused as to how this will make a difference, I'm just saying good morning, that's all I'm doing. And then I was thinking, that's simply a part of showing love. Because in the office I work in, because there's so many people that work in that office, it's very easy to just walk past the receptionist, or everybody in the office can take the way that I was describing, where you don't have to walk past the receptionist. You can literally just kind of come into the building, walk all the way to like the third floor, something like that, and then you're in your office. For some, like the reception is like the only day that you ever see the receptionist mainly is on a Friday, because there's free lunch. That's it. Or maybe if you want to come and get a drink from the fridge, because there's free snacks at work, thank God. So if you want to come and get a drink from the fridge, you can come and get that. You don't have to see the receptionist if you don't want to. And it just made me understand that even something as simple as saying good morning shows love. The homeless man, the amount of people that walk past this homeless man, even before God gave me the instruction, I'm going to be honest, I felt bad, but I didn't do anything. I felt bad. I felt really bad. The man, they just walk past him. Some people, they'll even be brushing his leg as they're walking. They have like, he has like a little hat thing that he puts on the floor, so people can put coins in. I'll be seeing 1p, 2p, and I'm thinking, yes, that may be all the coins you had, but sometimes you always know that you can do a bit more. You always know you can do a bit more, and it just came to the fact that the arching instruction for me was to show love. And I thought that was show love inside your office alone. But no, the arching instruction was even in the area. There is a reason why I'm asking you to show love, because showing love leads directly to me. It's directly to me. It leads directly to me. Anything you do, anywhere you go, in that office, anything you say, love. That's a product of what you are doing, love. That's a result of what you are doing, love. And love leads directly to love. Love leads directly to God. So let's jump all the way back to 1 Samuel 15. Let's jump all the way back there. Let's jump all the way back there. And let's go back to verse 12. I just want to read that again, just to refresh your memory and refresh mine as well. Verse 12, 1 Samuel 15, verse 12. Early the next morning, he went to talk with Saul. Someone told him Saul went to Carmel, where he had a monument built so everybody would remember his victory. Then he left for Gilgal. And then after that, it just goes on to Samuel confronted Saul and asked him questions, and then Samuel kind of completed the instruction for Saul. So he went to, he got Agag and he cut him in pieces. The Bible said he cut him into pieces. He killed him off, cut him into pieces. And then it moves on from there to David. God rejecting Saul as king of Israel, and then David kind of coming in and going to the house of Jesse and all that kind of stuff. But whenever I'm doing Bible study, I do Bible study in questions. So I'm someone that I like questions. Whoever knows me, I like questions. So I do Bible study in questions. Whenever something happens or I want to find something out, it's questions. And sometimes the Holy Spirit asks me questions. And then I write those questions down, and sometimes when I have the answer, I write down the answer. If you don't have the answer, you just put it in your notes, then you come back later. That's how I work in terms of Bible study. I ask questions. And like I said before, can God really trust you with his instruction? Can God really trust you to bring glory to what he does, even in the smallest of times? Like I said, we always want to go for the big stuff. We always want to go for the, let me speak in front of the 50,000 at Wembley. God take me to America. Let them pay for my hotel so I can lead worship in Mike Todd's church. Let me do all of that before I've spoken to the person across my desk, or before I've been in my school and God gave me an instruction to simply show love to the person who's too scared to admit it, you want to then be taken to the 50,000. Understand, God is a God of principle. He's a God of principle. He's not a God that will just jump, hop, skip, and jump, and then that's the end of your story. He'll forget the one where you where he wanted to use you and you didn't let him use you. He's not a God that will just simply just jump and forget that stage. No, he wants you to pass through every single stage. One person that I'm a very big admirer of, and you always hear his name in this faith, is David. And 1 Samuel 16 is where David's story starts and it ends way in the future. Is David. So, should we go to... let's go to 1 Samuel 16. And I want us to focus on verse... Let's focus on verse... I'm going to say 10. 1 Samuel 16, verse 10. So let me just quickly explain it. Saul was rejected as king over Israel, and God wanted to raise another. God then told Samuel to go to the house of Jesse, where Jesse had many, many sons. Maybe 8 sons in total. I was the youngest, and then he went to his house and he said, he told Samuel, I have selected somebody in the house of Jesse. Go to the house of Jesse, so that the one I have chosen can be selected. And then Samuel said, how can I go there? Surely they'll kill me, or surely they won't accept me. And then he said to Samuel, take sheep with you so that you're there for trade or something like that. And then they went to the house of Jesse, and then I'm sure you've heard it before, where he did the first one. God said no. He went down the list, and then he said, "Is there another?" He told Samuel asked Jesse, "Is there another?" God said to Samuel, "None of these people, none of these sons that you've kind of brought out before me, I have chosen." God said to Samuel, Samuel said to Jesse, "Is there another son that you have?" And then Jesse said, "There is one who is tending the sheep. One who is tending the sheep, my youngest son, David." And then Samuel said, "We won't carry on until you call for David and David comes out. We won't carry on." So with David, it's literally just that first bit. Let's read from verse 10. One by one, Jesse told all 7 of his sons to go over to Samuel. Finally, Samuel said, "Jesse, the Lord hasn't chosen any of these young men. Do you have any other sons?" "Yes," Jesse answered. "My youngest son David is out taking care of the sheep." "Send for him," Samuel said. "We won't start the ceremony until he gets here." And just in that little 2 verses, and it wasn't much, but I always thought to myself immediately, like, why wasn't David called out? Why didn't he want to bring him out? Was he ashamed of what he was doing, or did David do something wrong to his father that he didn't want to acknowledge him as his son? But it then just kind of forget. It just kind of went straight to, he was tending the sheep. He was doing the little stuff. He was defending the sheep from when lions and bears and any predator wanted to come and take the sheep. He was defending the sheep. He was fighting for his sheep. He was taking care of his sheep so that one day when the sheep is needed by the family or by whoever needs the sheep, they're ready. And then it just kind of made me think that as children of God, we are so caught up in the who's leading worship, who's leading a prayer session, who's teaching the word. I want to be just like them. I want to be used by God in that capacity. I want to do everything that they're doing, even worship the way they worship, teach the way they teach, talk the way they talk, walk the way they walk, pray the way they pray, do everything the same way they do in their own capacity. But that's the relationship that they've got with God. Not the relationship that you have with God. We need to still grow. We need to still get to that point where we can say, "God, I am ready to be used for your kingdom." Not, "God, I'm ready to be used so that people can see my face, people can understand my face, people can accept me." No, I'm ready to be used for your kingdom so that you get all of the glory. That every product, every result of what happens here today goes back to you. There's a story of Smith Wigglesworth. Even though I've never met him, one of my favorite people, Smith Wigglesworth. And he was at a conference one day, and then he finished the conference, and then he came out of the building, and there was loads of people that came to the conference and people that just supported him in general. There was loads of people all around who were outside cheering his name, saying, Smith Wigglesworth, da, 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 Smith Wigglesworth, da, 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 shouting his name, giving him all the accolades, all the adoration, all the honor, all the respect, giving him all the glory. And what he done, I didn't expect the next thing he done, but what he done was he started crying. He just started crying right there and then. He just started crying right there and then. And it's like, why are you crying? Like, you just done something good for the kingdom. You just, preached a word, or healing happened, something amazing happening for the kingdom. And it was said that he started crying purely because of the fact that he was upset that man was giving him all of the glory and not God. They were celebrating the vessel, not the original. They were celebrating the person simply that God used. And they said, listen, me, I will die. I'll pass away. I'll be gone. I'll be gone. You got to understand that the life we spend here on earth and the life we don't spend here on earth, we are not here longer than we are here. We are but a sprinkle of dust. We're gone. We're gone. It's like going to the desert, trying to count one grain of sand, leaving, coming back 3 seconds later and expecting the grain of sand to still be there. It'll be gone. It'll be gone. And he said, because they're giving me all of the glory, and they've forgotten the original, they've forgotten the maker, they forgot the original. How these people have gone astray. These people have left me. They've left what they should know, what they should cling to. They've left all of that alone. And it just made me think, how often do we as children of God, when we want to be used by God, how many times do we accept the accolades of men? Well, we're going to go back to 1 Samuel 15 before I round up. We're going to go back to 1 Samuel 15, and it's like, in fact, let's go there. Let me not paraphrase. Let's go to 1 Samuel 15. Let's go back to 1 Samuel 15. Let's go to scroll down. Let's go to verse. Let's start from verse 24. 1 Samuel 15, verse 24. And this is where Samuel has confronted Saul and told him about what happened, the instruction. And then Saul goes on to say, I've sinned, let's read it. So 1 Samuel 15, verse 24, I have sinned, Saul admitted. I disobeyed both you and the Lord. I was afraid of the army, and I listened to them instead. Please forgive me and come back with me so I can worship the Lord. No, Samuel replied, you disobeyed the Lord, and I won't go back with you. Now the Lord has said that you can't be king of Israel any longer. As Samuel turned to go, Saul grabbed the edge of Samuel's robe. It tore. Samuel said, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel away from you today, and he will give it to someone who is better than you. Besides, the eternal God of Israel isn't a human being. He doesn't tell lies or change his mind. Saul said, I did sin, but please honor me in front of the leaders of the army and the people of Israel. Come back with me so I can worship the Lord your God. And just that beginning of verse 30, Saul said, I did sin, but please honor me in front of the leaders of the army and the people of Israel. Come back with me so that I can worship the Lord your God. And when you're being used by God, let's not deceive anybody. When you're being used by God, people see you. Most of the time. People see you. But what I've come to understand is very, very important to not delight in the praises of men, because they will only lead to pride. They will only lead to pride. We saw it with Saul, how he just went on a spiral downwards. That was even in the story of David. He's so prevalent in the story, and you see his spiral going down and down and down and down because of him being disobedient, because of him not following the instruction, because of him not taking time to seek God truly and understand that there is a reason why the instruction is so specific. It's important to not delight in the praises of men when you're being used by God. Are we together? Are we together? We together? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm a round up. I know you guys are tired of me talking. So I'm a round up. Let me finish by saying this very, very simple thing, that you are special to God. You are very, 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 very special to God. If you've forgotten or if you needed reminding, I'm here to remind you today that you are very, very special to God. Do not think that because you may not be doing anything, or because you're not out in the front, or because you feel like others are doing more than you, others are doing stuff differently to you, that you are no longer special to God, that God is not interested in you. God is in fact very, very interested in you. And God is just waiting for the time that you will heed to his instruction. God is waiting for the time that you will take time out to seek his instruction, if you haven't heard it already. And even going back to the point I made about how God is the author of time, don't be so quick to want the instruction before you're ready to go out on the mission. Don't run. Don't run. Don't run ahead of God, because you've got to understand, when you run ahead of God, like I said, it's either you will look back and think, I've come too far, and you'll fall off the cliff, or you have to take time to go and come back all the way and then start again. And it's very, very important that what should be a blessing, if got at the wrong time, can be a curse. You got if I had a razor blade, for example, and I tried to use it on a newborn baby, that would be a silly thing to do, purely because the baby will be harmed, the blade will harm their face or their skin, or because they haven't gotten any hair yet, so it's a curse to them. But if I use the razor blade, or somebody who's a fully grown adult use the razor blade, because they have hair on their face or on their legs or wherever, it's a blessing to them. What you have got too early, if you're not ready for, it can be a curse. So I finish with this, and I finish by saying, I actually have a quote written down here. It says, living a life for Christ is not about fearfully avoiding sin. Living a life for Christ is about actively and courageously doing the will of the Father. That was by a German pastor called Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, rough name, and it's a rough name. But that's all I have for you today. Let's bow our heads. I hope you've gained something, a little something, even if it's 1 point. I hope you've gained something. But Heavenly Father, I give you all the praise, all the glory, all the honor, all the adoration, for there is none like you. There is none that can compare, will ever compare, and has ever compared. I thank you for this time that we have spent here today, for it's not by our power, nor by our might, but by your grace, your mercy, your favor, your wisdom. So Father, take full control and have your way in our lives throughout this weekend and the days and months and years to come.